The moment my brother laughed in my face from the hospital doorway and said, "Dad would be proud of me for taking control," I knew something was horribly wrong. I was lying in a hospital bed, drenched in sweat, exhausted after 21 hours of labor. My newborn daughter had been in my arms for less than 10 minutes. I should have been focused on her tiny fingers and perfect little face. Instead, my entire world was collapsing. My brother stood there smiling. And he was holding documents that should never have been in his hands. "Congratulations," he said with a grin. "You got a baby, I got the inheritance." Then he laughed, actually laughed. Right in front of me, I thought it was some sick joke. I wanted it to be a joke, but the look in his eyes told me it wasn't. And when I realized what he'd done, the pain in my chest hurt worse than labor ever could. What he didn't know was that 48 hours later, police officers would be standing at his front door. And that smile would disappear forever. My name is Emily Carter. At the time, I was 32 years old, married to an incredible man named Jake, and about to become a mother for the first time. My brother Ryan was 35. Growing up, we had been close. At least I thought we were. Our father, Richard Carter, raised us mostly alone after our mother died when I was 11. Dad wasn't rich when we were kids. He worked construction during the day and took bookkeeping jobs at night. I remember seeing him asleep at the kitchen table more than once. Everything he built came from sacrifice. Every dollar, every opportunity, every success. By the time Dad passed away, he had built a small real estate company worth several $1,000,000. Nothing huge by billionaire standards, but enough to change lives, enough to secure our futures, enough that people could become greedy, especially Ryan. The first signs appeared after Dad's funeral. At the cemetery, while I was still crying beside the grave, Ryan was already asking questions about the estate. "How much do you think everything is worth?" he asked. I stared at him. "Dad died 3 hours ago." "I know," he said. "I'm just asking." That conversation never sat right with me, but grief makes you ignore warning signs. You want to believe the people you love are still the people you've always known. I wanted to believe that about Ryan. I was wrong. 3 months after Dad died, I found out I was pregnant. Jake and I had been trying for years. Doctors had warned us it might never happen, so when I saw those 2 pink lines, I cried for nearly an hour. It felt like hope returning to my life. Dad would never meet his granddaughter, but somehow she felt like part of him, like a gift he had left behind. Ryan acted happy for me. He bought baby clothes, asked about nursery colors. Even attended our gender reveal party. Looking back, I realize he was putting on a performance, because behind the scenes he was doing something else entirely, something I couldn't imagine. About 2 months before my due date, Dad's attorney scheduled a meeting regarding final inheritance distributions. Nothing unusual. The estate had taken time to settle because of property transfers and business assets. The attorney assured us both beneficiaries would receive equal shares, 50% each. Exactly as Dad intended. Ryan seemed calm during the meeting, maybe too calm. At one point he even smiled. I didn't understand why. Now I do, because he already had a plan. A week before I went into labor, I received a strange voicemail from Dad's attorney. He sounded concerned. "Emily, please call me when you can. There are a few documents I need to verify." I intended to return the call. I really did, but life got busy. The nursery wasn't finished, doctor appointments increased, and then labor started early. At 3 in the morning, my water broke. Everything became chaos. Jake rushed me to the hospital. Contractions hit hard, hours blurred together, pain swallowed everything. And while I was fighting to bring my daughter into the world, my brother was executing his plan. I learned the details later, but according to investigators, Ryan had forged multiple documents. He created fake amendments to Dad's estate, fake signatures, fake notarizations, fake transfer authorizations. He even impersonated people over email. The goal was simple. Transfer my inheritance into accounts he controlled before anyone noticed. It was ambitious and incredibly stupid, but greed makes people reckless, especially when they think they've won. My daughter Lily arrived just after noon, the happiest moment of my life. I was crying, Jake was crying, even nurses were tearing up. Then Ryan arrived. At first I thought he came to celebrate. He carried flowers, a gift bag, and that smile, that awful smile. He waited until Jake stepped into the hallway, then he pulled out a folder. "Dad's estate finally closed," he said. I was confused. "Okay, you won't be getting anything." I blinked. What? Apparently Dad changed his mind. The folder landed on my hospital tray. My hands shook as I opened it. The documents looked official. Legal stamps, signatures, everything. According to the paperwork, Dad had supposedly amended the estate 6 months before his death. The new version left almost everything to Ryan. I received a token amount, $25,000 out of millions. I felt sick. That isn't possible, Ryan shrugged. Looks pretty possible. My dad would never do this. Guess you didn't know him as well as you thought. I remember staring at him, searching for some sign this was a prank. Some sign he wasn't serious. Instead, he started laughing. Actually laughing. You should see your face. Something inside me broke, not because of the money, because of the betrayal. Because he was destroying Dad's memory. Because he chose the exact moment I became a mother to hurt me, and because he enjoyed it. The nurse eventually entered and asked him to leave. He walked out smiling, convinced he'd won. The second he left, Jake returned. I handed him the documents. His expression changed instantly. Something's wrong. What do you mean? These signatures don't look right. That sentence changed everything because Jake worked in commercial lending. He reviewed legal paperwork constantly. And he spotted irregularities immediately. Tiny things, letter spacing, formatting differences, signature placement, things most people would miss. Within an hour, he contacted Dad's attorney. The attorney nearly had a heart attack because those documents weren't real, not even close. The attorney drove to the hospital himself. When he arrived, he looked furious. Emily, listen carefully, he said. These amendments are fraudulent. I sat upright. What? They were never filed through my office. My heart pounded. So Ryan forged them, the attorney nodded slowly. I believe so. Then he revealed something that shocked everyone. Earlier that week, he discovered suspicious transfer requests connected to estate assets. Someone had attempted to move funds into newly created accounts. The bank froze everything pending verification. That's why he left the voicemail. He had already suspected fraud. Ryan just didn't know it. The attorney immediately contacted authorities. The bank launched an investigation. Digital records were pulled, emails were examined, signatures were analyzed, and piece by piece, Ryan's entire scheme started unraveling. Meanwhile, he thought he was celebrating victory. According to mutual friends, he spent that evening bragging, buying expensive drinks, talking about investment opportunities. Even discussing luxury cars, he acted like a millionaire because in his mind he already was. The next day, investigators uncovered the first major mistake. Ryan had used his personal laptop to create several forged documents. The metadata remained intact. His name was literally embedded in the files. When detectives told us, I almost couldn't believe it. Seriously, the investigator nodded. Criminals often aren't as smart as they think. The second mistake was worse, much worse. Ryan had paid someone online to create fake notarization stamps. Every payment was traceable, every message was saved, every transaction led directly back to him. By then, the evidence was overwhelming, but one final discovery sealed his fate. And it came from a source nobody expected. Dad. Months before his death, Dad became worried about estate disputes, not specifically about Ryan, just in general. His attorney recommended recording a video statement confirming his intentions. Dad agreed. The recording was stored securely. And nobody remembered it until investigators asked whether additional evidence existed. When the video played, everyone in the room started crying. Dad looked directly into the camera. My estate will be divided equally between my children, he smiled. Ryan and Emily are my greatest accomplishments. Then his expression became serious. If anyone ever claims otherwise, they're lying. That video destroyed Ryan's defense before he even knew it existed. 48 hours after he laughed in my face, police officers arrived at his house. Neighbors watched from windows, several recorded videos. One clip eventually spread through our community. Ryan opened the door smiling, probably expecting a delivery. Instead, he saw detectives. The smile vanished instantly. Witnesses later said he looked like he'd seen a ghost because in a way he had. The ghost of consequences. He was arrested for fraud, forgery, identity theft, and financial crimes connected to the estate. As officers escorted him away, he kept insisting there had been a misunderstanding. There wasn't. The evidence was everywhere. When I learned he'd been arrested, I was feeding Lily. The room was quiet. Sunlight streamed through the hospital window. For the first time in days, I felt calm, not happy, not triumphant, just calm because justice had started. And Dad's legacy was finally being protected. The legal battle continued for months. Ryan tried everything, excuses, technicalities, blame shifting. At one point, he even claimed stress had impaired his judgment. Nobody bought it, especially after prosecutors presented emails where he discussed the scheme weeks in advance. The planning was deliberate, careful, calculated. A jury didn't need long. The verdict came back guilty on all major counts. I remember sitting in court holding Jake's hand. Ryan refused to look at me. For years I wondered why. Then I realized the answer: because he couldn't. He knew exactly what he'd done. The judge wasn't sympathetic. He described Ryan's actions as a calculated betrayal of family, trust, and the wishes of the deceased. The sentence was substantial. Financial penalties were devastating. And every stolen asset was returned. In the end, I received exactly what Dad intended: half the estate, not because I fought harder, because truth won. After the trial, several relatives who had sided with Ryan reached out to apologize. Some admitted they'd believed his lies. Others said they couldn't imagine a brother doing something so cruel. Neither could I. That's what made it hurt so much. Years have passed since then. Lily is now old enough to ask questions about Grandpa. I tell her stories, the good ones, how hard he worked, how much he loved us, how he never quit when life got difficult. I don't tell her much about Ryan, at least not yet. Children deserve innocence for as long as possible, but I do teach her one lesson. Character matters, always, because money reveals who people truly are. When there isn't much money, people can hide their greed. When millions are involved, masks fall off. Ryan showed everyone exactly who he was, and the consequences followed. Today I still think about that hospital room sometimes. The flowers, the folder, the laughter. For a long time those memories haunted me. Then something changed. I looked at Lily. I looked at the family Jake and I built, and I realized Ryan didn't steal my future. He tried, but he failed. Because while he was chasing money, I was holding something worth infinitely more: my daughter, my husband, my peace, my father's true legacy. The inheritance eventually helped us build a wonderful life. We invested wisely, started scholarships in Dad's name, expanded charitable programs he cared about. The money became a tool for good. Exactly what Dad would have wanted. And every time I see Lily laughing in our backyard, I think about something strange. Ryan believed he won when he laughed in my face at the hospital. He believed victory belonged to him. What he didn't understand was that winning isn't about taking everything. It's about keeping your integrity when life tests you. I walked into that hospital scared, exhausted, and vulnerable. I walked out a mother. He walked in thinking he was rich. 48 hours later, police were knocking on his door. And that's a difference no amount of money can ever buy.